right, so today we are going to be talking about number sense. But in order to talk about number sense, we need an introduction to a few types of numbers. All right, so I want to draw your attention to the difference between 4.1. There we go. 4.1 and 4.1. All right, so our first value, 4.1, you're going to notice that there's nothing after it, which means that this is a terminating decimal, which means that it stops. There's nothing after the 1. There's no indication that it goes on past the value of 1. For our second one, this is a repeat bar. So 4.1 with a repeat bar means we have a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 that goes on and on and on forever, which we indicate with a repeat bar. Now, if you're thinking, well, the second and the third thing are the same exact value, isn't this a 1 afterwards, like a 4.11111? And the answer is no. These three dots indicate that we have no idea what is happening next. I could have a 4.123. I could have a 4.189. I have no idea what's going on afterwards. I call this a dot, dot, dot. The three dots kind of remind you of that ominous sound at the old of classic horror movies. Dun, dun, dun. We have no idea what's happening next. All right, so that's the first thing that I wanted to draw your attention to. The second thing that I want to draw your attention to is going to be this symbol. Now this looks a lot like our division symbol from elementary school days, but it's not. This is what we call a square root symbol. And square root does not mean divide by 2. Square root is a question. It means what number times itself. All right, that's the question it's asking. So the first one I'm going to give you is going to be the square root of 4, which is confusing because it kind of is the same thing as divide by 4. So square root of 4, you're asking yourself what number times itself will give you a 4? Well, the square root of 4 is 2, and the reason being is that 2 times 2 is 4. Now this list is going to continue to grow. So there's actually a number in front of it, which is the square root of 1. I'm just going to erase this so that I could see more of this. I'm going to start with 1. The square root of 1, and you want to keep this list somewhere. What number times itself will give you 1? That's 2. Sorry, 1. Square root of 4, what number times itself will give you a 4? That's 2. And that's because 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So the next thing is going to be the square root of 9. What number times itself will give you a 9? It's not 4.5. You're not dividing by 2. You're asking yourself what number times itself will give you a 9. So we're going to go ahead and complete this pattern a couple more. And I need you guys to keep this list in a safe spot because we're going to be using this for a couple of lessons in the first component of number sense. 5 times 5 is 25, so when I ask you what number times itself is 25, the answer is 5. I'm going to go up to 10. Think about 6 and 6. Gives you a 36. What number times itself will give you a 36? That's 6. Keep going. What number times itself will give you a 49? That is 7. I'm going to do 8, 9, and 10. Square root of 81 is 9. And last but not least, 10 times 10 is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. Now, of course, this pattern goes on and on forever. I'm just going to stop at 10, but you should be able to do 20 times 20. It could be 1,000 times 1,000. All of these numbers over here on the left-hand side, 1 times 1, this is a 2 times 2. These are all what we call perfect squares. So I'm just going to write that on the side. I'll write it on the, there we go. Do a little brace there. These are what we call, just going to color code that. Perfect squares. Perfect squares are when a square root is a whole, when a square root is a whole number. Meaning it comes out perfectly to be a 10. It's not like a 10.18 something. This is perfectly a 9. 9 times 9 is 81. Now, anything in between these, like the square root of 82, is not a perfect square. So I'm just going to put that in a star down here. So your values between your perfect squares are, they're going to be decimals that go on forever, and there is no pattern with no pattern. All right, so that is your pre-lesson for number sense. We're going to need this in order to be able to do our next component.